Welcome to Tavshin Pei Vav. I'm Yosef Siegel, and this is Bishvileinu, Our Paths. If you're watching this could be as soon as I record it and place it on YouTube, or whenever you're meant to find it. And that's what Bishvileinu is all about, that it's a journey, and when our paths are supposed to meet, that's when they meet. If I can be helpful along the way, give some inspiration, mostly for myself, I need the inspiration. So I'm going to be giving some disclaimers about certain things, and welcome to my journey. Everyone has their own journey, and we help each other along the way. Sometimes we learn things that are good for us, and sometimes we learn about things that aren't for us. So whether or not I help you see something that's good for you, or something that for myself you say, I don't want anything to do with that, that's all part of this journey. So, and just to remember, yes, I'm a rabbi, but do I know everything? Not even close. But I'm here to share with you the things that I do know, and to always remember, this is your journey, right? I'm on my journey, you're on your journey, and there's for you to find yourself, to find things to learn, as you're going to see. I don't really have a script right now, so I'm going to sort of be ad-libbing, just going along the way. And to remember, because I'm not doing any more like, second takes, third takes, fourth takes. I'm just going to go. I just want to bring one of the first Rashis in this past week's Parsha, which was Parshas Bereishis. And as you'll see, I'm going to a lot of times be speaking in English, throwing in Hebrew terms. Sometimes I will translate the Hebrew term. Sometimes I might not. If you have any questions, my email is on my description. Be in touch with me. So one of the first Rashis is this use of that Hashem, of the name Elohim. Let me just see. Right, that at first, when Hashem created the world, he thought in Machshava to create the world through Midas Hadin, through Midas Judgment. And then when he saw that the world couldn't exist just on Midas Hadin, on the attribute of justice, he had to bring in Midas Harachamim, right, the attribute of mercy. And that's when we'll see later on in the second chapter where it says Hashem Elohim, right? So we see a mixture together, a combination of Midas Harachamim and Midas Hadin. So it was explained to me by two people. I heard two shiurim last week that the Sfas Emes said, number one, what does it mean that Hashem thought? Like Hashem has thoughts. He doesn't have thoughts like we have thoughts. Like, he thought about this and he saw that it was not right. No, Hashem, really b'machshava, that this is the way the world should be, is in Midas Hadin, through strict judgment. But it happens to be that we're not able to live up to that level. So in order for us to be able to survive and be around, Hashem has to bring in Midas Harachamim. But really, the world should be going according to Midas Hadin. And as I heard in a shir from Rabbi Gladstein, which you can find him on YouTube, he's great, just so many great insights, connections, and a real Tam Chacham, and a Baal Midos, and there's so much to learn from him. And I forget who he was quoting, but he said, first of all, by like Rabbi Akiva, we see such a Midas Hadin on his life. We see by Yaakov, there's a connection that he makes. I'm not going to remember everything that he said, of Rabbi Akiva being like an extension of Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov himself, we see that he said to Hashem that you should be to me Elohim. So we see that Yaakov had a very, very tough life. It seemed to be like one tzara after another. But Yaakov invited that upon himself. So the Sfas Emes says, so what does it mean, right, that this Midas Hadin b'machshava. B'machshava Hashem created the world. B'machshava, that should be Midas Hadin. So whenever we go out to do a mitzvah, we want to do, in our mind, we should have in mind that we're going to do, that we want to do the mitzvah completely, with all its hidurim, with everything. Like we're going to go daven, that we're going to have kavanah by every single word. We're going to have intent, we're going to pay attention, and our mind's not going to wander. When we start to feel that's what our mind should be, our thoughts should be. Okay, it happens to be that our mind drifts and our thoughts go, and we could be thinking about tons of other things, and then all of a sudden we realize that like we're up to Bishvileinu and where did davening go? I always say for myself sometimes that Psukei de Zimra on Shabbos, sometimes my best thoughts and ideas come, during Psukei de Zimra on Shabbos. Probably also sometimes, yes, because Shabbos has the Kedusha, that some of my best Torah thoughts and different things come on Shabbos. And it's probably not a coincidence that, probably also because I'm disconnected from my phone and sometimes of distractions and whatever it is, that, I'm able to focus more. So it should be that lichachila, from the very outset, that we should want to do all the mitzvos completely bishleimus. But it happens to be, okay, we're not perfect. And so then, things aren't perfect. But from the outset, we should want that in our hearts and our minds to want to do everything. And that's why sometimes I'll find across YouTube, different rabbis, different approaches. Some seem to be very harsh and giving like, this is like, and it's, you go quote, this is what's written here, and it's all there. The Midas Hadin, the strict judgment and strict letter of the law is there. And I think it's very important when those rabbis speak about it, one in particular, because he always has sources. Some other rabbis, I hear them speaking that very Midas Hadin, and they just say things like off the cuff, and it sounds like a shock jock, like on the radio, just saying these things that are like shocking and not really bringing sources, makoros, for them. But there is a rabbi who, he seems to be very, but he brings what it is. And I think it's very important, because even if we can't necessarily live up to that standard, I think it's very important for us to know what the standard, what the gold standard, platinum standard, titanium standard is. Because then we can know what to shoot for. We know really that if we would be able to do everything that we wanted, where our hearts and our desires should be. And then there are some rabbis who, talk a lot about to lift people up, like to really show them that they need a sweetness of the Torah. They need that sweetness. They've been beaten up by life so much that they need to be really lifted up like a child and brought along the way. As Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, who is great in doing this, that sometimes, right, we have people who could be 60 years old, but they're in a body of a 4-year-old. So you want them to wake up and act like an adult, but really, emotionally, they're just a child. So in a way, you have to try to reach out to them, and it seems foolish. It seems not foolish, but it just seems silly. But really, they need to be reached out like a child and brought up. So, and then sometimes other rabbis, one thing that I love to do is to see within different rabbis the way, what they share about, what they see, what they bring out, is to learn about them. There's a lot to learn. I love learning about people, trying to see if I could see what makes them tick. And it's, and I've seen in my own life, and yes, if anyone has been through trauma, I've been through trauma in my life. I had a childhood that was filled with trauma from infancy through childhood, teenagehood. Just the thing, Baruch Hashem, I've done a lot of work on it. I found a very good therapist who I worked very hard with, and I saw, and I continue to see a lot of success in just my life wouldn't be where it is today if I hadn't done that work and I wasn't guided by this therapist. And but I'll say, because the Vilna Gaon says, right, it says that the Torah is a Sam Hachaim or Sam Maves, right? It's an elixir of life or death. And the Gra, the Vilna Gaon explains, right, Torah is mayim, Torah is water. So whatever is planted, that's what will grow, right? So the Torah will bring out either good or bad. If inside the person there's pain and there's hurt and there are bad midos, so the Torah, right, if you learn Torah, so it's going to bring that out. On the other hand, if a person has good midos and he's very good inside, so then the Torah that he has will sprout out the good things. So the question then someone has asked is, should I not learn Torah until I've, fixed all my insides, all my midos? So no, because a person needs Torah. Torah, Eitz Chaim Hi, L'machazikim Ba, right? The Torah, right? It's a tree of life for those who grasp it. So to me, sometimes it's the tefillah that, right, I'm going to learn Torah, that one of the things when you finish, Masechta, Gemara, thing that, or even just going into the base measure, outside of the base measure, that when we leave, we go, that our Torah should not be a michshol for other people. It should not be a stumbling block for other people. And I think sometimes that could be the danger of posting things online, is sometimes when I have a Torah insight and it's great, I don't know what its shorish is, where it's rooted. Is it rooted in some of my pain, some of the trauma that I still carry? Or is it in a good thing of strength? It's right. I'm seeing the Torah from where I am. That's why sometimes they say it's always good, right? When you learn the Torah each year, we're a different person. It's very hard to not see the Torah through the lens of where we are. We have, right, our lens of how we're experiencing the world. So different stories, different parts of the Torah will come out depending on where I am. And that could be good or bad. Number one, if it's my own personal journey, someone might get an idea of, oh, that should be for me, but not necessarily, right? If I'm working on working on life, it's all trajectory. But my trajectory isn't someone else's trajectory. So what I'm taking on a step at a time, so if I'm sharing about that and someone says, oh, well, that's what Yosef Siegel's doing, so maybe that's what I should do. No, everyone has to find for themselves what works for them and what's their trajectory. And, maybe you're listening to this and I might share something and I'm taking something a little slower and you're like, okay, so maybe I should slow down. No. Do what is working for you. I remember my son Shmuel, when he made a siyum on Bava Basra, and people thought maybe he went through it too quickly. And when he made his siyum, he said, because there's a famous phrase from the Gemara, Tafasa meruba lo tafasa. If you try to grab a lot, you won't grab anything, right? So everyone always takes that as, don't take too much on all at once. Slow down. And sometimes what are people looking at? People are looking at from within themselves what could be a lot. So, I know that was too much for me, so, you better be careful. Slow down. But I don't know who that person is. So what my son Shmuel said was, sometimes if you don't know what meruba is, how do you know how much is too much? I had the privilege of talking to my high school football team. I grew up in Hewlett, Hewlett Bulldog. So I had a chance last week to go talk to the team. And I find just a lot of parables, a lot of mashalim surrounding football. And over time, I'll share them. But when we would work out in the gym, how do you start? A lot of times you want to know what your max is, right? You find out what your max bench press is, and then whatever, shout out to Morty Gable, who's a trainer, a good friend of mine, that then you want to find, like you're going to cut it down to half or whatever it is to find what your sets, what your reps should be. But it's very important to find what your max is. So yes, when we start out, a lot of times people say take it slow, but I'll say sometimes it's good at first to find out where the max is and then to see where to cut back from. Because in the end of the day, we're here to serve Hashem, to keep Torah and mitzvos. That's what our avoda is. That's what we're here. We're here, as the Vilna Gaon says in Evan Shleimer, we're here to work on our midos. How we get to, we say perfection in our midos. Okay, it's a step-by-step process. And it could be, so if we go to, I'm going to throw just some concepts. We go to Rav Dessler's thing on Bechira, on free choice, where it's that the point of free choice is a very small line, and anything above that is, above our free choice, and anything below it that's really just habitual to us, there's no choice on it at all. But there's always going to be a point where there's a balance of, there's a test. Am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? So, we're here to push that, to push the envelope, to keep on growing. I heard a thing before Yom Kippur, or before Rosh Hashanah from Rabbi Gladstein, who was saying about dreaming big, right? It's the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah, dream big. It might end up being, at the end of the year, you only went 1 foot, but you were dreaming 1,000 feet, okay? But it's possible that if you would have only dreamed 10 feet to say, okay, my dream is for 10 feet, that you'd be minus 20 feet. So, first of all, so don't sell yourself short. But within the recognition that if I'm going to take on and I have a dream of who I want to be, just because I don't reach to be that person right away doesn't mean that I failed. And then, yes, so I have to look at, was there a trajectory? And that's part of that Techiyus Machshava, that right in Machshava, that Hashem wanted to create the world in Midas Hadin, but then he saw that it couldn't exist, and he needed to add in Midas Harachamim. So I don't know if I've taken care of all my disclaimers, but, welcome, to know from me, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter once said, I have to remember, because you could always pause this and come back. When I was talking to the football team the other day, and the coach at a certain point was like, okay, 2 minutes, Rabbi, you have 2 minutes. I know for my wife, sometimes when I go to share an idea, she's always not sure, is this an idea? Is it a sentence, a paragraph, a chapter, or it's a whole book, right? Sometimes she has time for, a paragraph or a page, but all of a sudden if it starts to be a chapter or a book, it becomes too much. But the good thing here is, number one, you can put this on 2 times speed, which a lot of times I listen to Shiur, I put it on 2 times speed, or it doesn't have to be done all at once. I already sort of forgot where I was going with that before. Any disclaimers? I feel like as I'm just talking, and if you're like, oh wow, I really feel like I could connect with that. So until I might be a part 2 to have any disclaimers, but one thing I would like to share is this year is to start learning Orchot Tzadikim, paths of the righteous, to work on Midos, and Sefer HaYashar, which is Midrashim, and I feel like it really gives a story. There's a lot of gaps in Chumash, right? Because as we know, the Chumash, the Torah, is not a storybook. Yes, there are tales, there are stories there, but there are gaps. And I find that from Midrashim, that Sefer HaYashar really fills in those gaps. And because we know whenever we have Midrashim, that there's some are to be taken literally, some are not. I feel in going through Sefer HaYashar that these are meant to be taken seriously. Yeah, everything should be taken seriously, literally, and to me, it paints a whole picture. I like to learn, like I said, I like to see a whole picture and to get understanding sometimes of, you know, what leads people to their decisions. Being a person who's worked a lot on trauma, I I've learned a lot and seen how, because of my trauma, led to certain actions and different paths in my life. Of course, it's never taking away responsibility and making excuses, but there's an understanding of why I might do certain things. And if I understand it, so then I can make a correction. And so that's going to be part of Sefer HaYashar. And then just throughout the year, sharing different ideas, different things that have meant a lot to me. Oh, so now I remember where I was before. So Rabbi Yisroel Salanter once said that he could get up and talk to a whole crowd of people, and he might help just one person. And if that one person davens a better Mariv, a better Shmona Esrei, one time right after that, and even if that one person would be himself, it was enough for him to get up and speak. So with that, I know there are people who have asked me, like, Rabbi, why don't you share more about your ideas? And sometimes I feel like there are so many good ideas out there. There's so many good people to learn from. So in a way, like, okay, I have good ideas. I share my stuff with people. I go, as people know, I approach a lot of people when I have ideas, and I'll share my ideas. But maybe there are people out there who can use or be inspired or just even get a geschmack out of a good insight. Because Baruch Hashem over time has given me very good insights. And why keep it from everyone? So, and maybe there are some people within Gilgul and whatever it is that I'm supposed to have a connection with, and the connection ends up getting made through this venue. We don't know. So, welcome to Tufshin Pei Vav, and just some shout outs, not shout outs, but just to know, like, people that I listen to for Parsha, like I said, Rabbi Gladstein. I find in listening to him, to me, I see a healthy person where the Divrei Torah that he's sharing, I don't see negios. I don't see them. I just see them sprouting from MS. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Also, good Parsha Shir, Rabbi David Kaplan from Or Sameach, right? So we're dealing with Bali Chua, people who are new to Yiddishkeit, seeing, number one, what he brings out to them, what he wants them to be aware of. And I think he's very funny, and he's got a great personality. And I enjoy listening to him very much. When it comes to a lot of question answer type things, also I like Rabbi Breitowitz from Or Sameach. I find it very fascinating, the questions that boys ask and what he answers. To me, it's great. When it comes to anti-missionary work, keeping Jews, as Jews, and not believing that, that there's any part of Christianity for them. Rabbi Tovia Singer, Rabbi Skobach, but mostly Rabbi Tovia Singer that I listen to a lot, and I recently purchased his books. Like, he just explains, if anyone has any questions of why, why doesn't this prove Jesus, or or different things that the Christians use as proof, different things. He goes through everything. So he's a great resource. When it comes to healing and trauma, Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson is great. And also a disclaimer, a trigger warning. Sometimes when I might share things, remember that these are things that work for me or different things for me. If something triggers you, it's not necessarily that I triggered you. It's just something that was said is disturbing inside of you. Your body might be saying, like, danger, danger, don't go there. So it's not necessarily that I'm a triggering person. It might be that the words that I shared, if you've been through trauma, someone's right that our brain is out there to protect us, to not want to, sometimes don't open that wound. So if you feel like a wound is being opened, number one, if you're in trauma work, so then it's good to, I think, if you're ready with a therapist, to delve into it, to see why is that triggering to me, and to see what it is. But it's, number one, it's not my intention to trigger, and it's, but maybe there's a reason that it did, and that you're finding this now, or other shiurim or different things that I'm sharing, that you're finding it now. In the world of psychology, I'm a bit of a fan of Carl Jung about synchronicity, because I do believe he had an understanding about sort of like Bishvileinu, that we're all connected, the way the universe works. The only thing that for the Jew is within the idea of hashgacha pratis, of of the divine interaction. So I'm not sure. Sometimes I still have to delve into that. When it comes to Kabbalistic things and understand like these hidden things, Ephraim Palvanov is great. And if you want to like hear, like, I can't say like, oh, the truth, like sort of, if you want a wake up call, like you sort of, and I think it's very important sometimes, and to know sometimes we need a wake up call, but to remember that, the path goes step by step. Yaron Ruvain is great sometimes in the way he does it, in sharing sometimes like the MS or the Emet, like sort of like in a way, Midas Hadin, the way like it is. And if Hashem is going to decide to show Rachamim and different things, that's up to Hashem in a way. That's the way I sort of look at it. Like, don't, like, right, we try to figure out, oh, this must be the way that Hashem is going to or is treating me, therefore I have leeway here. That's a very dangerous game to play. And yes, I think sometimes we're looking to survive, and we'll take on or we'll incorporate certain things that rabbis say in order to alleviate the pain, to maybe the anxiety and pressure of hearing something that's sometimes so harif, and therefore that must be, I have to go full force, but I don't have full force. And then all of a sudden anxiety kicks in and be like, and then all of a sudden you just fall apart and you don't want to do anything, right? So I, for myself, am able to learn and listen to Yaron Ruvain and really just hear what he is saying in a way, techilu b'machshava, that these, that sometimes things really are black and white. If Hashem decides to, make a cheshbon, that's Hashem's decision to make a cheshbon. So on that, once again, welcome to Tafshin Pei Vav, and I look forward to sharing Torah, life, and whatever else falls in between or along the path.